Hello everybody and welcome to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, us. It's Ariel and
Raeleen. Hello.
Woohoo! There's so many things to tell you. Which one should I say first?
Ooh.
I'll say the fact that this is not my background. Well, it is my background.
You moved
right
again.
now. Yeah, I moved. I bought a new house. No, I am currently traveling and I am in England, jolly England. And so I'm staying at an Airbnb, and this is the background that I set up for us today. So we also have noticed that the lag is just a few seconds slower than usual, but on this phone call between Raeleen and me. So if one of us says a hilarious joke and the other one doesn't laugh right away, that's because of the ocean. It's not because we're being mean.
There's nothing between us other than the ocean.
Exactly. That's a really great way to put it. Oh boy. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is, it's pretty exciting. I don't know, okay, we have it on our content calendar, like on our Notion where we organize everything, but we kind of forgot until our last live show. Someone was like, you guys are doing mashed potato May, right? And we were like, yeah, we just have totally forgotten to think about it. I don't know how, it just kind of slipped past, but instantly we were like, of course, we've got to do that.
Yeah.
So mashed potato May is a month where we all try and tackle our mashed potato books as best we can, just for fun. A month of concerted and concentrated effort. Yeah. Raeleen, can you explain to the good people what the hell a mashed potato book is?
Yes. If you're new to the pod, if this is the first time you've ever listened, this is something we coined a long time ago in episode 2. So we coined this term mashed potato book to mean something like a book that you've been meaning to read for a really long time. You keep putting it off, so you're kind of saving it for last, as you would with a mashed potato on your plate because it's the most delicious. So it's kind of that thing where you just keep putting it off because you want to read it so badly. Maybe you're scared that you're going to love it so much. There's some reason that just keeps stopping you from reading it. So these are the books that we want to try and tackle in May. It's a good time.
It's an ongoing problem. It's clearly some form of a psychological disturbance.
Yeah, it keeps happening.
It keeps happening, and I don't know anyone who doesn't do this, really. Everyone I know has at least this one or two books. Like, people that read a lot and people that don't read a lot are like, oh yeah, I've really been meaning to read that. And you're like, for how long? And they're like, 3 years. And you're like, so why haven't you read it yet? And you can't exactly explain. You're just saving it for the right time, or you're like anxious that you're gonna love it, but that means you've got to optimize the time when you read it. And so maybe you're not reading it at the right moment. You've got to, everything, like the settings have to be perfect. All that sort of stuff keeps you from reading this book that you should just read.
Right, just do it.
So we coined the phrase. I wonder what mashed potato books we were talking about. That might be interesting to go back and see.
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day, what the book was that originally inspired this whole term. But yeah, we created this May month. We created May.
May. Of course.
It used to be an 11 calendar month. Now it's 12. We created mashed potato May just as a fun little project for our podcast community, as like a little hashtag that you can use to encourage everyone on, cheer each other on, read the mashed potato books that you want to read, and tackle as many as you can this month. So the secondary part of this is our pin. So last year for our bookmark club, we worked with this fantastic artist whose Instagram is Shelf Worn Drawn, and we'll link them in the description and in the show notes of this episode. But we love the bookmarks that they made so much and their illustration style that we asked if we could use the sticker that they made for the bookmark club into a pin, and they were super down, so we did that. We made it into a pin. And we realized this is like literally the perfect pin. Well, it is. It's a mashed potato. It looks like a little Penguin Classics, but it's not. It doesn't say Penguin anywhere on it, so it's not copyright infringement. It looks like an old paperback classic, but it's mashed. It says mashed potato on it, and it says, "Save the best for last. Potentially delicious."
I love that. He really understood the assignment on that one.
Yeah, James did such a great job on these pins. So if you want to check one out, or check it out and purchase one, they are available on our merch shop, which is on our website, booksunboundpodcast.com, or we'll link it down below, etc., etc. But yeah, this is the perfect time to get the pin and read a mashed potato book.
Hell yeah.
So, like I said, we talked about this with the live show peeps, our patrons. We do a live show with them every month, and we were talking about this, and I don't remember if somebody brought it up or if I brought it up, but we started talking about Mermaid May. So this was a project that I did, I think literally in 2014, so it would have been a decade ago.
Pre-podcast, yeah.
Yeah, very pre-podcast. Because obviously my name is Ariel. Ariel is most famous name for the Little Mermaid. And so I feel very akin to mermaids. Whenever I see mermaid stuff, I'm like, it me. So I, long ago, a decade ago, was like, have I ever even read a mermaid book though? Like I couldn't think of any if I had.
It's niche.
And so I was like, I'm going to dedicate May to reading mermaid books. Fast forward to this live show that we did like 2 weeks ago. This all came up. I was like excited about Mermaid May again. I was like, actually, there are a couple of books that have come out in the last decade that would be really interesting.
That's
books
true.
like Chlorine by Jade Song that we were talking about on that live show, or The Seas by Samantha Hunt, which sounds amazing. Like there was like a variety of them, and I was like, people were recommending them in the live stream, and I was like, damn, there's like there's a good handful of books that sound really, really good. And and somebody, I should have written it down, I forgot who it was. Somebody they said that I should have my month be fish and chips May. As in, mashed potato, that's the chips, fish, that's the mermaid,
so good.
Fish and chips May. So I am personally participating in fish and chips May. That seems like it's a subsection of mashed potato May. It's a little too niche, I think, for the vast majority of people.
Yeah. Another name for it is also mashed mertato May.
Yes,
That's
somebody said mashed potato. Not bad. Not bad.
Both are pretty stellar.
Both are pretty excellent. I think we can all agree. So if you have, listen to this, you get bonus points. If you have a mashed potato book that is somehow about mermaids or the ocean, and if you read that mashed potato book as a fish and chips challenge, you get bonus points. You can then trade in your bonus points for glory.
It's a currency we all understand.
Yeah, exactly. We could probably all get behind that. So there you go. I'm in England and mashed potato May is happening. Those are kind of our two updates. But Raeleen, tell me about you. How have you been? This is our first episode back from our break, right? No. The last one was.
Yeah,
I was going to be like, it's been weeks. It hasn't been weeks.
It hasn't been weeks. And I mean, I haven't been up to too much. I've kind of been getting into the spring cleaning type of like mindset where I just want to like, I want to get rid of stuff. And I kind of swapped some of my winter clothes out of my closet and put them into storage, took my spring clothes back out. So it's feeling good. We cleaned out our shed last weekend and it was a nightmare and that was really scary. And we cleaned it out and now it's nice. And so we kind of like rediscovered some things that we had, like sports equipment and stuff. And I had totally forgotten that we had badminton rackets. And so last night, well, actually all day yesterday, Kyle and I wanted to play badminton, but the weather was crazy here. It was pouring rain and then it was sunny for like 10 minutes and then it would be pouring rain again and then sunny and then it was hailing and it was just like crazy. We're like, I guess we're not going to get to play badminton today. But then at 8:30 at night, suddenly it was perfectly clear. And so we were like, let's just go. Let's go outside and play badminton. And so we did.
Incredible.
And it was starting to get dark, so it was kind of hard, but it was really fun. And it was like my first time playing badminton in probably over a decade. Like it's been forever. But it was lots of fun. And it felt good to get outside and knock a birdie around. It was good fun. And so yeah, that was like kind of the highlight of my yesterday, but I've just been spending lots of time just chilling, playing more Stardew, cleaning up around the house. But yeah, that's about it.
That sounds like a nice restful week though.
Yes, I needed that. It was a crazy work week and I was like,
yeah. I'm really excited for spending time outdoors. I feel like BC has warmed up a bit faster than and I remember this, like when I lived in BC, it just felt like, the coldness didn't last as long. I never got hit with that polar vortex. I didn't get hit with that polar vortex or whatever it was when you got that though. So like that, obviously there's exceptions to all of this, but just overall I've noticed that it gets warmer a bit earlier and definitely jealous of it. It's just more mild there. And
you know what? I'm actually supposed to be going camping next weekend, which I'm a little bit scared of because there has been snow in the forecast. So all this being said, we don't know what's going to happen next.
No, spring, that is the thing about spring. It's very unpredictable. And like literally you said, like you had sun and rain in the same day, back and forth.
So I'll probably have a really fun story next week of how my camping went. It's going to be
That's exciting though. I definitely am prioritizing planning a camping trip this year. Like it's been something I've been craving for years. And it just keeps not happening. Like other types of trips happen instead and like they're fun and everything, and it's a little bit of work to coordinate because I want to go with not just Connor but also with my brother, with CJ, and then maybe some of CJ's friends. So we want to do like a little bit of a camping trip, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like a whole thing, but I'm really excited to hear how your camping trip goes.
Yeah, I haven't gone camping in a while because honestly I'm not the hugest fan of camping, but my friends and I have been wanting to just like do a little getaway, so I was like, okay, let's do it. I'll be there with my little sleeping bag and lots of socks because it's gonna be cold.
What's the aspect of camping that you don't like?
Dirty feet, man. Your feet just feel so dirty. I hate that.
I think you've told me about that.
There's something about dirty feet going into socks but also into a sleeping bag that I just really can't get behind.
No, I totally know what you mean. I feel like, okay, I think we talked about this at the very beginning of the year because I was talking about how we all ran into the ocean to kind of wash off the old year as this new tradition that my family's doing. We all did like a polar dip and ran into the sea. My mom was a freaking genius and she brought this huge jug of water.
Yeah.
And at the end, when we were all covered in sandy feet, she was even like, she was 3 steps ahead. It was warm water. She had like poured hot water from the tap into the thing. So by the time we were done the whole affair, it was still warm. Yeah. And it was freezing cold. It was December 31st. So it was really cold when we ran into the ocean. And so the warm water not only cleaned off our feet, but also like warmed us up, which was a miracle because our feet, we all complained the most about our feet. Like they were just so cold. But yeah, so maybe you could do something like that. Like take a little thing of a little bottle that's just for washing your feet and then a little towel, dry them off. Yeah. Maybe that could help.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Just troubleshooting, you know?
I'm sure
I just want you to have a great time.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what happened to me this week. It's been such a hectic 2 weeks in the run up to this trip to England because we're going to be here for 2 weeks. Today is only the kind of like we got here on Saturday. So yesterday was our first day here, but it was kind of a weird day because it was all jet laggy and stuff, and we're just like, whoa, we're all tired and messed up. We woke up really late and blah, 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 and went to sleep really early. Today was like the first proper day here, and we're here for 2 weeks. So just planning that much stuff in advance to make sure I could come and do everything properly and not feel stressed out and everything there was a lot of work, and there was just so many appointments. There were so many appointments that I had to do and take people to and the dog to, and it was just a lot going on. Yeah. But one thing that happened this week, it was incredible. It was awesome. It was outstanding.
Okay.
I was out so my garbage collection day is like a certain day. The day before, I was out driving. I don't remember to what. And I saw that loads of people were piling up extra garbage. You know those big collection days when the government takes like extra stuff? They're like, forget just your 2-bag minimum or 3-bag minimum or whatever. Like, we'll take it, whatever you put out there. And so I get home and I'm like, I tell my mom, I'm like, Mama, there's people out there with like mattresses, like patio furniture, like all sorts of stuff. And she was like, to the calendar. We open up this pamphlet that has the like year in review thing from the local council, and it explains that we were in the week of spring cleaning pickup. Ooh. So and it explains what they'll pick up and what they won't. Mm-hmm. I have, or had, because this is a Victoria story, I had 2 dead hot water tanks.
Oh my God, get that out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I moved into the house, in the cellar, there was a functioning hot water tank that the house used, and a dead one discarded in the cellar.
Nice.
That like clearly when the people who lived there before me replaced the new one, they never dealt with it.
That's
they
crazy.
Just cast it aside. And it's in the cellar at the bottom of like very steep, awkward stairs. No. It's like a whole disaster. Yeah. So I didn't deal with it either. I was just like, whatever, right? It's just, whatever. We don't need to deal with that.
Yeah, not my problem.
Fast forward to 3 weeks ago when I had my whole hot water debate debacle and it exploded and I had to get a new one. So I got the plumber to come over on one day and he looked at the situation. He was like, okay, I will unplug the current hot water tank. Since it wasn't working, we hadn't had hot water for like 4 days. He's like, I'm just gonna unplug it and like detach it from everything. Can you remove this? And maybe your other one, my other bonus one that's been laying there for a decade, can you remove these for when we show up tomorrow with the new one so that it's easy for us to install it? And we were like, okay. So me, my mom, and Connor, and it was a mess, but we got it. We got both of the hot water tanks out of the cellar and we rolled them out onto the patio, never to think about them again, you know? Except that obviously I thought about them every single day because they were right next to the door, like right on the lawn.
Yeah.
So fast forward. Now I know it's special spring cleaning collection day. And I'm like, I wonder if they'll take these hot water tanks. And I read the little information and it says they'll take appliances, but they won't take construction materials. And I'm like, God, hot water tank is definitely right in the middle. It's like right between an appliance and a construction thing. So I was like, there's only one way to find out. So Connor and I rolled them to the end of my driveway and put these massive, they're huge, you know, a hot water tank is massive. These familiar. 2 massive barrel-like things there. And I'm just like, good luck. The garbage collection people come by, grab all of our garbage, and leave the hot water tanks and drive off. And we're like, no, I was like, that sucks. I really wanted them to take them. And then like an hour later, the second truck comes out. This is the spring cleaning truck, guys. These are the specialists.
There you go.
I didn't realize it was going to be a second movement, second truck. And so the second truck people come out. I felt really guilty because it was like an older woman. She looked like she was like 60. Yeah. And a younger guy, he looked like he was like 40. I guess not, it's not young, but you know what I mean. Like a 40-year-old man and a 60-year-old woman. And I was like, God, should I run out and help? Like, but also they probably have a way that they want to do it. And they've probably done these before. I was like, I feel guilty making them lift these giant things. But they got them both up onto their truck. And then I peeked out and I said, thank you. And they said, you're welcome. And I was like, oh, sorry. And ran in and I was victorious. So I was so excited because otherwise I was going to have to take those to the dump, find a trailer. I was going to probably take them on the mini truck to the dump.
Bobo doesn't want that kind of responsibility.
No, he doesn't. He was like, really? I don't want to, I'm supposed to carry books, things that are cute, not giant dead hot water tanks.
Speaking of the mini truck, can we get an update? Where's it at?
Whoa, okay. I would love to give you an update.
We're entering May, so it's getting to be, you don't have that much time until you're...
No, you're totally right. So April has been very productive, but it's completely boring behind the scenes stuff. I got the license plates, but then I had to get those registered, and that's been done. I got the branding all done. I've started to order stuff. So I've ordered the bookmarks that I'll be giving to everyone who buys a book. I've ordered the stamp, and I have stamped stuff. Yes, I have. I've been practicing stamping so that I can stamp people's books if they would like me to when they buy a book. I have bought enamel pins that will be for sale there. And I've started, like this week, my goal is to figure out ordering books because I have to sign up as like a wholesale distributor thing. And so that's like a whole song and dance that I have to figure out. So I actually have stuff to do while I'm here in England.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like ordering stuff. And then May is going to be the month where I make the mini truck into a bookmobile. So in May, I'll be painting the truck and I'll be building the bookshelves. Which is, that sounds really easy. It won't be really easy, but it's not too much. So it will be, May will be that, and then June will be the finishing touches to hopefully launch at the end of June.
Amazing. Are you willing to tell us what color you're going to paint it yet, or is it a secret? Or do you not know?
I do not know. I'm not sure yet. I'm being a little indecisive about it. You know who also keeps asking me? My dad. He's like, what's it gonna look like? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know yet.
I just want to be able to picture it.
I will let you know though, when I'm back home in May, that's when the real I think that in May is going to be the kind of stuff people are looking forward to. Because right now it's just been a lot of admin and getting it registered and all that sort of stuff. But now when I get home in May, and it's basically May is dedicated to the mini truck and to my bathroom. So those two things are...
I need to start figuring out what books I want you to order for my shelf.
It's true. It's true.
I have work to do too. Wait.
I know. It's so funny. I've renamed the shelf slightly to books my best friend thinks you should read.
I love it.
I think that's funny. Yeah.
That's good.
I can't wait to make those labels either. There's so many good labels I'm gonna. It's gonna be great.
I can't wait.
It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait either. All right. Well, speaking of books, let's talk about books.
Yeah, baby.
How about we start with a little book haul?
Yeah.
Because I did a little book shopping today. I had some fun. So, how many books do you have to haul?
Oh heck. I do have 5.
Whoa.
I've lost control. Sue me.
Okay, well, I have 2.
Okay.
So we can go back and forth.
Yes.
How about you start us off?
I'll start. So I received a book in the mail that is coming out April 30th. So that'll be just around the corner when this episode comes out. It's called The Swans of Harlem, 5 Black Ballerinas, 50 Years of Sisterhood, and the Reclamation of a Groundbreaking History by Karen Valby. Quite the title. So I think the subtitle kind of explains everything that this book is about, so I don't really need to go into it. But this was sent to me by Penguin, so thanks again to Penguin for hooking me up with this book. Because I heard about this, I want to say a few months ago, and was like, oh, I need this book. Because I feel like dance kind of fits into that same niche interest as gymnastics for me. I just am really interested in this whole world. It's 2 separate worlds, but it all kind of fits together in my mind. So I'm really, really excited to kind of get into the nitty gritty of some of the history there. So yes, very excited about that.
That's really cool. That sounds great. The first book I will haul, I have actually told you about this book, Raeleen. I was doing some research into mermaid books.
Oh yes.
And I was looking into whether any bookshops near me here in London were stocking them, and if I liked the UK covers versus the Canadian covers, etc. And one of the websites I was on was they didn't have it. They didn't have it in stock. But they were like, you might also like this one. And it recommended Monkey Grip by Helen Garner. And I was like, well, I am completely sold by the cover instantly and completely.
That's my favorite cover.
Completely obsessed. Yeah, I'm obsessed with this. And yeah, wow, I'm obsessed with it. It's so beautiful. I wonder who did this artwork. It probably says cover illustration by Kate Jansen.
Good job, Kate.
A genius. Oh, it says there's like a whole bio about the cover illustrator.
Oh, cool.
I feel like I never see that. Let's see. After studying illustration at Portsmouth College of Art, Kate lived and worked in London for many years in the window display industry. Wow. Before embarking on a new life in Australia, where she creates colorful graphic pieces with acrylic paint on canvas in her home studio in Mount Martha, a suburb of Melbourne, and the setting of some of Helen Garner's books. You can see more of her work at wowhouse.com.au.
Wow. Very cool.
You know what? I think we should probably do bios for the cover artists. That's cool.
That's really
Now
cool.
that I've seen it, I like it. Neat. As you all know, I have an interest in swimming. It's kind of related to the mermaid thing, maybe a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I just love swimming. I swim every day in the summertime at my local community pool. I would do it more if they were open more, but they're only open in July and August, and so that's when I swim. I know, it's brutal. But this book sounds so good, and I'll just read the synopsis because obviously it sold me on it. Actually, this seems like a different synopsis. Don't you hate that? When what you read sold you on it, and then when
it's
you
like a different movie trailer.
Different.
Like you could watch a really good movie trailer, and then you watch a shitty trailer, and you're like, that is not even close to what I want.
To what hyped me. Yeah, 100%. Okay, well, let's give this a shot. In 1970s Melbourne, Nora is a happy woman. She is happy moving between the city's communal households and her little daughter. Happy with days spent at the public pool and nights spent dancing and drinking and talking and smoking and loving freely. But then Nora meets Javo. Javo with his crooked, wrecked, wild face and his violently blue eyes. And soon she is trapped in the monkey grip, see what we did there, of his drug addiction and her own obsessive love for him. On its first publication in 1977, Monkey Grip was both a sensation and a lightning rod due to its frank portrayal of the lives of Garner's generation. Now a modern classic, it introduces us to Helen Garner's dazzling and radical literary voice. That wasn't as bad as I thought.
Okay.
It's definitely not as catchy as the one that I sent you, but it sounds so great. It seems like a lot of it is set at this public pool, which really excites me. It's cool that it's set in Australia and like by an Australian, not like it's about Australia. I don't think I've read an Australian book in the last few years. So that's really cool. And it just seems like a perfect spring summer book.
I want it.
Also, I sent it to Raeleen because not only because of the cover, but also because you were talking about how much you're enjoying 70s books, and this is from the 70s. So
yeah, I definitely want that now. Swimming and
Raeleen,
the 70s
they had it
in Australia.
They had it on a table with a few other of her books that they've published in all of these same kinds of illustrations. Like it's like a matching set.
I see. I'm gonna have to look that up on Black Whales.
Yeah, impeccable.
Cool. Well, I yesterday went and just wanted to do some kind of running around. It was raining, so I was like, I don't know, let me just get out of the house and do something. So I went to the thrift store, and then after that I went to the bookstore. So I'll start with my thrift store find because I went there first, and it was such a good find. The Three-Body Problem by Sushin Liu, translated by Ken Liu. So this is fun because Kyle and I just started watching the Netflix show. We've watched the first 2 episodes, and I am obsessed. Like, it is so good. But I'm also, like, while I've been watching it, I'm like, I wonder how true to the book this is. Because the show is very much, like, set in the UK. But I know that the author is from China, so I wonder how much of that has been changed just for the show. But it does still have, like, a big China aspect as well. But I'm very intrigued to see if the book is different. I just get this vibe that it's going to be different. So I'm really excited to read it. But it's like in perfect brand new condition. I could not believe I found this at the thrift store. And I immediately went back to the bookstore and I was like, I no longer need this book. Thank you so much for trying, but I found it. And the girl I talked to was super jealous that I found this because she also wants to read it. But yeah, this is just like a cool sci-fi book. I don't really know like where the rest of it is going to go because we're just watching the show and I don't really know anything about it, so I'm not gonna look too far into that, but I do want to say that the show is really good so far. Like, I highly recommend it.
Cool. Okay, the other one that I got was a little bit of an impulse purchase. I picked it up, I read through it, I was like, that seems really cool, but I probably wouldn't read that soon, so maybe I shouldn't get it. And I put it back down, I walked around the shop. And by the way, I forgot to mention, both of these were purchased at the same shop. It's the Tottenham Court Road Waterstones, and I have some B-roll footage of it that I took, and I'll also put some photos on the Instagram of it. It's such a beautiful shop. It's like a really, really beautiful shop. And I never go there because it's so close to Foyle's, which is my favorite bookshop of all time, that I'm always like, oh, I'm just going to go to Foyle's and spend all my money there. So why would I go to this Waterstones? But I haven't been there in a while. And so I was like, it would be cool to go there. And then also, I'm going to be hanging out with Lena in a few days. And we're going to be doing a whole Foyle's trip.
Ooh,
And so I was like, actually, you know what? I won't go. I'm going to save it.
Yeah.
I'm going to save it till later this week when I go with Lena. I don't need to worry or panic. And so I went to the shop today. But yeah, so I went around the shop again and then I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm still thinking about it. I do really want it. So it's this little book called Philosophy of the Home by Emmanuel. Ooh, I don't know how to pronounce that last name. Kochia, maybe. Kochia. It says, a bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom, are these what make a home? The places we inhabit, argues philosopher Emmanuel Kochia, are far more important than that. We build homes not simply to protect ourselves or to satisfy our aesthetic tastes, but in order to attain happiness. So it's basically like all of these musings and philosophical ideas about what is a home. And I have really been I've been thinking about home a lot ever since I bought my own home, right? I bought a house and that like shifted my whole brain into being like, what makes a home? Why do we care so much about owning a home? And like all of these sorts of ideas are so fascinating to me. It's one of the reasons I think that I love Anne of Green Gables, because that book is all about home, right? That book, like Green Gables, it's Anne of Green Gables, her home. Like that's in the title. It's titular, Raeleen. It's in the title. So I find that whole concept very interesting. And so, yeah, I thought this sounded really cool. And this would definitely be a studious potato type book.
Studious potato, of course.
Seems really cool. Ooh, there's a section on social media. That would be really interesting, I bet, because maybe it talks about how we are all like faking what our homes look like. So
yeah, maybe I
online.
I wonder what the approach is there. Very
right?
Interesting.
All right. While you talk about your next book, I'm going to turn on a light because it's getting dark in here.
Okay. So yeah, my last few books were from my little browsing around my local used bookstore, which was really fun because I brought in some books to give them as well, like to sell to them. And so I was like, oh, I'll just browse around, see what's around here. And so I really did kind of like a deep dive of some sections that I haven't really looked at too much. So in the fiction section, I found An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, which I have already read. This is a book I read a couple of years ago and loved. I read it on audiobook and I've been meaning to pick up a copy ever since then. So I happened to find it finally and I was like, yeah, I'll just pick that bad boy up. So that one was a nice find. But then I also, in the fiction section, found a new book. Well, not a new book, but a book that has newly become something I really want. And that is The Girls by Emma Cline.
Oh,
which
that
just
makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's set like in the late 60s. We've got a bunch of girls like joining a cult. Like, it's just exactly what I want right now. So I'm thinking this may have to kind of take the place of some of my goal books that I've been wanting to read this year because I really want to read that now. And then the last book I got was from a section that I discovered at the bookstore, which was called like Books About Cooks or Books for Cooks, something like that. And so that book is Heat by Bill Buford, which is one that has been kind of on my radar for a while. I've been looking for it and just haven't found it yet, but it's another chef memoir. And I think this guy worked with Mario Batali. Yeah, he worked with Mario Batali. So very interesting stuff. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I love my weird little pile that's just got like all of my niche interests. I've got a dance book, a cooking book, a 70s book. Without spoiling anything, that last book reminds me, I did buy one other book today that I bought for Raeleen, but I can't tell you about it because I want it to be a surprise. Show it to the people. I won't look. No, I won't. I don't even have it here. I'm not gonna. You're gonna watch this footage later. I'm closing my eyes. So we'll all discover that together. But this was back when I was looking to see. I was still in Canada. I was looking to see if bookshops near where I was going to be staying would have the mermaid books. And one of the websites was like, "You might like this," and I was like, I know Raeleen would like that. I was like, I have to buy that. So I put it on my list and I was like, I'm just going to buy it today so that I don't forget. Yeah. Okay, good. And so I won't buy that today. I'll stop buying books to make sure there's no overlap. Until you get this one. I did have one last thing I wanted to haul, and it was a little stationery shop visit. So I've definitely talked about Present and Correct before on the podcast. They're this really beautiful stationery shop here in London.
and they've moved location. The last time I was here, I went and I was talking with the owner, and he was like, we're actually moving locations. And I was like, oh, that's so exciting, because they were moving to like a bigger spot. And so I was really excited to go there, and I went, and it's just as beautiful. Oh my God, that was the loudest vibration sound that's ever existed. I find that the vibration on this thing is like kind of freaking me out lately. Let's go into Do Not Disturb. It's shocking I wasn't already in it. I agree. Anyways, I was really excited to go and visit the shop the second time, because he had told me that we were expanding, and I was like, oh God, I gotta go. And so I just picked up a couple little things. The first thing is this card that says happy birthday. It's so cute. I've started a new system where on the last day of every month, I go through my calendar and I look at the coming month. So like on April 30th, I'll do this for May. I'll go through May and I will see, are there any of my friends I want to send cards to? Usually it's a birthday card, but like last month I sent my friend a card. It was a little preemptive. Now that I think about it, I took a risk, but I felt so sure. I sent her a card like congratulating her on getting her PhD because she was defending later that week, and I was like, what if she hadn't gotten it? That would have been like a kind of a gut punch.
Yeah,
but I knew she would.
Sucked.
I knew she would. And I've sent a couple to people who like have been announced that they're pregnant, and just being like, oh, I definitely want to send this friend a card saying congrats. Or some people have sent them cards for like they bought a house, and I'm like, happy new home.
Wow, you're such a good friend.
So it's just been so nice, and it kind of feels like the kind of person I want to be. Do you know what I mean by that? Where it's like, you have all these like little aspirational things about yourself. You're like, one day I'm going to be the kind of person who does this. And I realized that if I didn't figure out a system for this to happen, it wasn't just going to spontaneously happen. So I started doing that on January 1st, actually. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I did it for January, and then for February and March and April, and so now to May. And so now it's starting to just feel like a habit, and I really am looking forward to it. It's also been good because for years I have been buying beautiful cards and they're just sitting there. Now I'm actually kind of burning through them every month. I'm sending out at least 3 or 4 cards.
That's beautiful.
And so now it's fun because I'm like buying them more intentionally. So that's awesome. I got a beautiful ruler. God, I love stationery and I love rulers. I specifically do really love rulers. I think they're so beautiful. Beautiful. And then finally, I bought this little print that was clearly like flashcards for someone at like an old school or something.
Yeah.
And it just says 9 minus 7 equals 2. And I just think that it's so beautiful. It was 75p. I was like, yeah, I want that. That's mine now.
It's mine now.
I really wanted to find one that was like George Orwell-esque.
That's
was
what
like 2 plus 2.
Of.
I know, but all of them were subtractions.
Damn.
There was no additions.
You have to make your own.
So there you go, a couple little stationery finds. But now that we've done our haul portion, let's talk about books we've read. Okay, Raeleen, how did reading go for you this week?
I would say it went well. I didn't finish anything, but it did go well.
Okay.
So recently, a couple of people have asked me if I was still reading Manacled, that Harry Potter fan fiction, and I am.
Oh yeah.
I was taking a little break from it because I was so busy with other stuff that it just kind of went onto the back burner. But I am reading it with a friend, so we also kind of have to like try and read it at the same pace. And so recently we decided on a date that we were going to hang out soon. So we're like, let's read up to chapter 25. And so this past week I was like, okay, I've got to read up to chapter 25 because I'm going to see her soon. So I did read through 10 more chapters of it. I'm now a quarter of the way through this thing.
Wow.
Chapter 25. Yeah, there's like so many chapters, but I'm really enjoying it. Like every time I read it, I just like really fall into it, and it's the type of thing that you just want to keep reading. It's very readable, so I'm definitely enjoying that, although it is very dark. Like it got really weirdly dark. There's like gore and stuff that I wasn't expecting. I was like, oh my god, poor Hermione. It's really terrible, but it's good. Like it's really good. But so I'm reading that. So that's kind of mostly what I read throughout the week. But I am still reading Colorless Tsukuru Tazuki and His Years of Pilgrimage by Haruki Murakami. I've read like 5 more pages since we talked about it last week, so I don't really have much to say there. Still loving it. I just haven't really read it. But I'm also rereading There by Tommy
Cool.
Orange. Yeah, a few people
Great.
have asked me about his new book, if I've read it yet, Wandering Stars, and I was like, oh, I haven't read it yet because I really want to reread There. And instead of just putting it off forever, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna listen to it on audiobook because it was available on Spotify. I recently discovered that Spotify has audiobooks, so I was like, okay, let's do this. And so the first time I read it, the book physically, and now listening to it on audio is really nice. It's a really good experience for this book because this one, it follows like 12 different characters. So each chapter is kind of an individual short story almost, but they're all connected and they all kind of come together in the end. But it's really, really good as an audiobook because each one is kind of narrated by a different person, and it feels really like good. Like it feels like an oral history almost. It's got that kind of vibe going on where it's like all these different people telling their stories. So I'm really loving it. Like loving it just as much as I did the first time, and I'll probably have it finished by next week easy because I've just been listening to it anytime I have a spare moment. And really excited to finish it and then read his new book as well. So I've got a lot of things cooking right now, but haven't finished anything.
You obviously gifted me that book earlier this year. Do you think I should read it or listen to it?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say listen. I would say listen to it.
Really?
It works really well as an audiobook. And I mean, either one is a good way to listen, like to experience it. But I do think that this is one of those times where I would say the audiobook is definitely the way to go. I wouldn't say better. Like I wouldn't say it's better than reading the book, but I would say it's a very, very solid way to go.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk about what I finished, and then I'll talk about what I'm currently reading. Okay. So I only finished one book this week because of the craziness, but it was Riddles of the Sphinx. Anna Sheckman was 19 when her first crossword puzzle appeared in the New York Times. She later went on to work as Will Shortz's assistant at the New York Times. She has a PhD from Yale University. She grew up in New York and now lives in Brooklyn, and Riddles of the Sphinx was published on March 5th, 2024. So unfortunately, I didn't bring the physical version of the book, obviously, so I don't have any visuals, but this is a podcast, so the visuals are just a nice bonus. Let me talk you through this book. Real highs and real lows is how I feel about it. Well, no, you know what? That's not even true. Not real lows. And maybe not even real highs. God. Mid highs, mid lows. That's how I feel about it. I think that the book is mismarketed. I think that that's probably its main problem, because I think that while it's a niche, crosswords it's a niche world. While it's niche, in the crossword world, Anna Sheckman is like a bit of a superstar. She's the second youngest person to ever have, or second youngest woman to ever have her, was it woman or just person? I think it was woman. That was one of the early facts in the book. But she was, to have her crossword published in the New York Times. Yeah. And she, like I mentioned in the bio, she was the assistant to Will Shortz, who has been editing the New York Times crossword puzzle for the last 30 years. Every crossword puzzle you've ever done that is in any way affiliated with the New York Times or is published by Simon & Schuster has been edited by Will Shortz. Like, he's the king of the crosswords, and she was his assistant. So she is in that world a huge deal. And I think because of that, the book was a little bit mismarketed, and it made it seem like it was going to be more about her and more about crosswords. Actually, the book is more about a few key women in the crossword world and their contributions to crosswords. But let's say that makes up 25% of the book. Yeah. Then another 25% of the book is about Anna Sheckman's eating disorder, which I think was a great topic, was a very interesting topic. And there were moments when she was talking about it where it really floored me. And I was like, this is really interesting. And it's wonderful to that's one of the great things about books, is just learning about an experience that you've never had. And then another 25% of the book was about Anna Sheckman's personal journeys with crosswords. Okay. So we're only talking at like a quarter of the book is what I would say they were saying that the whole book was about. And then the last quarter of the book, I'm leaving as kind of there was slightly other topics going, like there was a lot of talking about Freud for some reason. There was like going on other tangents about other philosophers and psychoanalysts and just other tangents. And so Riddles of the Sphinx, I think the subject line is inheriting the feminist history of the crossword puzzle. That doesn't allude well to what this book actually was. And so that's always frustrating because it's not actually necessarily the book's fault or the author's fault.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming that probably the publisher was like, we're going to put Anna Schechtman's name really big because she's a big star with the kind of people that are going to buy this book, and we're going to, it said, like, everything about the packaging felt like it was more about her and about her journey with crosswords. And that was exciting to me. That wasn't really what the book was about. Do I think it was well written? Yes. So I don't think that this was a badly written book, or even it wasn't even necessarily a boring book. Like, it was very academic.
Right. Yeah.
It felt like it was written by someone who is steeped in academia. Not in a bad way, but just like you could feel that vibe. And and like I mentioned last time I talked about the book when I was mid-reading it, I did feel like some of the parts were kind of clunkily tied together. Like, I remember I was listening to a segment about one of the women that she's highlighting of history of crosswords, and I was listening to it and I was like, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. And then it paused, she clearly like ends a chapter and then it starts the next chapter and she's just talking about the eating disorder again. And I'm like, I don't understand the connection at all between and it wasn't like a new chapter. It was just like a new page. I was like, I don't understand how these two things are related. And in a book, I feel like that's important.
Yeah.
It's got to feel cohesive, you know? The stuff about her and crosswords, the stuff about crosswords in general were really fascinating. Like, there was a whole discussion about how people used to write crosswords, which was like analog, like on graph paper and doing them like that, versus now almost every puzzle that you've ever encountered is digitally constructed on crossword software. And the difference in creating the two and the ways that it's changed crosswords and changed the people that make crosswords. And then there was this whole fascinating subject about words she can't include. Like, she would like submit a crossword puzzle and they'll be like, we're not going to publish it because we don't like that clue, or we will publish it but we need to change that word because we would never include the word this or that. And a lot of those words are words that were like more quote unquote feminine, or like come from a world of feminine topics, or like pop culture references or stuff like that, where she's like, definitely everyone knows that, but because this comes from such a kind of a studious background, people are like, people won't know. I'm trying to think of one of the references, and now of course I'm blanking on all of them, but like people won't know what that is, and it's like, clearly we would all know what that is. So it was very fascinating to learn about the ins and outs of the world. It was fascinating to learn about her journey. I thought it was well written, but it really wasn't what it said it was. It was a little misleading. If you don't like academic things, I don't think that you would enjoy reading it. Like, just very genuinely, I think you would find it a little boring to push through. The final thing I wanted to say is her voice was so good. Like, she read it so well. She was a fantastic narrator. And also, she sounds exactly like Anya Taylor-Joy. Like, so cool. I actually, at a certain point after like 2 minutes of listening to this, I was like, is Anya Taylor-Joy narrating this? And like, I had to look it up and it was like, no, this is read by the author. I was like, really? Are we sure? And there was just moments where it was uncanny, where I was like, oh my God, on the screen it just showed Raeleen confetti. I don't know why.
You had confetti on your face.
Yeah, like it just showed you
Google
confetti. I don't know why.
Weird.
But yeah, so it sounded exactly like Anya Taylor-Joy. I found that to be a little disconcerting at moments. I was like, Anya? Is you?
I've definitely had that before in audiobooks. I can't remember who I thought the person sounded like or who it was, but I remember having that like, this sounds exactly like so-and-so. It's so weird.
It sounded like if you had told me that secretly Anna Schechtman was friends with Anya Taylor-Joy and got her to record the book, I'd be like, yeah, Makes sense because they sound the exact same. It was crazy.
I love that.
I'm glad I read it because it was one of my most anticipated books. It was interesting. I did learn stuff.
Yeah.
It was cool, but it's not a new favorite.
Here's a question for you: would you count that as a studious potato? And was it supposed to be a studious potato when you were wanting to read it?
So it was not on my official list of my studious potatoes, but I would definitely count it as a studious potato for sure because it was. It really was about like I learned a lot of stuff throughout the book, and it was obviously written to teach people stuff. Studious potato.
There you go.
Okay, so what am I reading? Great question, Ariel. Not much at all. I haven't made any progress on anything else. I finished that book, and I probably am going to keep reading My Name is Lucy Barton because I was really enjoying it, and I would like to finish it. So it'll probably be this. Right before I left, I got a package also from Penguin containing Long Island, the sequel to Brooklyn.
It's funny. I was just thinking about Brooklyn because you're traveling. I was like, maybe you should read something else that's like traveling to England or whatever.
Yeah. I was also thinking that. I downloaded a bunch of books onto my e-reader before I left from my library, so I'll probably pick something from that unless I buy something that I want to read. But I'm feeling a little like I'm not sure what I'm reading right now. We'll see where the winds take me, kind of a situation. Yeah. All right, well, that's our reading update. We are now going to turn over to the mailroom. All right, we're here at the mailroom, and Raeleen, how about you start us off? What did you find?
Yes, so mine's kind of random and all over the place, but we have one here from Abby, and this was in response to our mailroom last week where we were talking about page count versus book count for your yearly reading. Yeah. So Abby says, I do both a pages and a book goal for my reading year, and part of my reasoning for this is to factor in DNFs. If I read 50% of a book and then DNF it, it has still contributed to my reading year, even if it doesn't add a +1 to my book count. I totally agree, though, that it's hard to pick a page goal. So I liked that little bit of insight because as a person who has DNF'd a few books already this year, it does kind of feel like those books, like that time is just like gone and like it's not tracked anymore. So I do kind of wish that I had kept track of how many pages I had read of those, but I did not. So maybe that's something to do for next year. And then we have like a book haul channel on our Discord, and our patron Cinnamon has posted a picture of their library book haul, and I just thought it was such a funny photo because there's 3 Junji Ito like horror manga, but then also Fair Play by Tove Jansson. And I was like, what a Books Unbound library haul. Like both ends of the spectrum.
That's awesome.
I just thought that was too funny. Okay. And then we've got this comment from Beth who says, hello, my name is Beth and I'm so happy to be here. I live in, this is just someone who's joined our Discord, I think. And she says, I live in Los Angeles and work in media. So obviously Kat Dennings influenced me. I saw her Instagram story and immediately subscribed to the podcast. I've been looking for a bookish podcast to dig my teeth into. And y'all, this is it. I've been binging Books Unbound on YouTube for a few weeks and decided to join the Patreon because I'm hooked. So many of the books Ariel and Raeleen discuss are exactly my taste. I feel like I found my people. Weird coincidence / stars aligning thing. The True Deceiver is also one of my favorite books and sits proudly on my favorite fiction bookshelf. So welcome, Beth. I just thought that was like a wonderful like introduction to our little community. I love that.
That's so nice. Hello, Beth. That's so fascinating. It is like, okay, one of the most important metrics, and Beth will know this if she works in media, one of the most important metrics is knowing where people come from. Like, how did you find our stuff? Because we should clearly be leaning into those models more, and et cetera, et cetera. And we don't really think about that much. No. We can't really control it very much. We don't have the budget to actually manipulate it in any way. So it all happens very naturally. But it is really fascinating to know, like, where did you come from? How did you find Books Unbound? Yeah. The idea that someone's like, how'd you find Books Unbound? Through Kat Dennings? That's the best. It is the best. And I love that, like, it at least brought one person in, you know? Because we were like, I don't know if things have changed much since all that shouting out happened, but I'm glad that it brought Beth to us, so that's good. Oh, it's so cool. Okay, and then we've got this comment from It's Amelia, who I just had to mention, like,
bring this one up because it's about Stardew, and I'm obsessed with Stardew right now. So
Ooh.
Amelia says, okay, for fellow Stardew fans, I need help deciding who to marry. So I was thinking we could, just bang this out right now. She says, it's my second farm, and first time around I married Penny because she's so sweet. This time I've narrowed it down to the 3 characters I had the hardest time getting to max hearts with in my first playthrough. Elliot, Haley, and Leah. So those are the people we have to choose between. I am going to say Elliot because I've never married him, but I've heard that he's a really good person to be married to because he sends you letters and stuff. Like, he'll go away sometimes and he'll write letters to you. He seems very thoughtful. He's a writer. So yeah, he's not really my type, but I think that he is a good choice. One of my friends is obsessed with Elliot.
Elliot, Leah, and who?
And Haley. Who I married on my most recent farm.
Oh, that's very interesting. Does she give you anything?
She gives me pancakes a lot. And it's actually kind of funny. A lot of times in the morning I'll go talk to her and she's like, oh, I went to go water the plants, but I saw that you already did all of that. You guys really have things under control here. And I was like, yes, Haley, thank you. So she's really thoughtful and she notices things. So I really appreciate that.
I have never, other than through force of will, because we were trying to perfect the game, I have never given Haley any attention whatsoever. I'm just Haley is so mean. And she thinks she's so beautiful. And I'm like, God, that turns me off so hard.
You know why I married her this time? Because the first time I ever played Stardew was with Kyle. Yeah. And we, went through our farm and he married Haley so fast. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Why did you choose her? And so this time around, we're playing a new farm because of the update. And I was like, I'm going to marry her before he can. And so I made a very concerted effort. I planted so many sunflowers because I was like, this lady is going to be my wife. And so I didn't even tell Kyle I was doing it. I was just like, yeah, we're engaged. Boom, we're married.
A spite marriage.
Yeah,
I love that.
Exactly. And my goal is to marry everyone at least once because I've had so many farms that it's possible at this point. So I had to do it. But anyway, who do you pick for Amelia?
That's tough. I mean, I have married Leah and I've married Elliot. I've never married Haley, so I can't give any good. I just don't marry Haley. I don't understand that.
Yeah, don't choose her.
Unless it's for spite. If you're co-playing with someone and you need to spite them, do what Raeleen did.
If you're
That's
playing
funny.
with a man, they all want to marry Haley. So the thing is, just marry Haley so they can't do it.
I married Emily once, and that was my favorite marriage I ever had. So I supersede everything, and I pick Emily.
There you go. And then the last...
Although, okay, I am currently married to Elliot, and he does send you a lot of, he goes on business trips, basically, and he'll send you letters, and it's a fun part of the game to get a letter from him, so...
It's true. Well, the last thing I wanted to shout out in the mailroom was the Mayor Jokes sent us a photo, or it looks like a painting that they painted, and it just says Mertato. And
I saw this.
It's a painting of a potato mermaid. We also had another patron do a digital art with water and everything, and it's so funny, but I really love this watercolor painting that someone took the time to make. So we'll put a photo of that on the screen now because it is glorious. It is so beautiful.
Incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so basically, I usually look at the comments from the episode that went out before the last episode.
Oh.
But because we took a week off, there is no last episode to look at. So I was combing through the last episode I'd already combed through, and I was like, I've already pulled the comments from here. And our current episode's only been up for 2 hours, but we do have a couple comments on there. So I actually just picked one comment because I'm going to go a little deep on this one for a second.
Okay.
At Smooth Seas 1 says, Ariel, do you have biscuit tea? Yes, we're talking about the biscuit tea again. Do you have biscuit tea with sugar or without? I'm excited to try it. Please allow me to go down a rabbit hole with y'all. Yeah. So, I drink my tea without sugar. This is because that's what George Orwell said to do. So a long, long time ago, I was living in England and somebody offered me tea and they were like, do you want milk? And I was like, all right. Do you want sugar? I was like, all right. Because I had no idea. Here in England, It's actually incredible, Raeleen, how much tea they consume and how baked into polite society it is. Like if someone comes over, you offer them tea. If this happens, you get tea. Like it's in the fabric of life here, right? It's incredible. But I've come from a place that's not a thing. Like Canadians have tea, but not in this quantity at all. It's not like a social norm. And so anyway, I was later on, I don't remember the timeline, but at some point I was then reading an essay by George Orwell about how to make a cup of tea. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to make a cup of tea because I'm not from this culture. I'm just going to follow Orwell. He's awesome. Yeah. So here's the essay. The essay is called, I'm not going to read the whole thing, don't worry. It's very short though, and I am going to link to it because you all should read it. The essay is called A Nice Cup of Tea. If you look up tea in the first cookery book that comes to hand, you will probably find that it is unmentioned. Or at most, you will find a few lines of sketchy instructions which give no ruling on several of the most important points. This is curious, not only because tea is one of the mainstays of civilization in this country, as well as in Australia and New Zealand, but because the best manner of making it is the subject of violent disputes. When I look through my own recipe for the perfect cup of tea, I find no fewer than 11 outstanding points. On perhaps 2 of them, there would be a pretty general agreement, but at least 4 others are acutely controversial. Here are my own 11 rules, every one of which I regard as golden. You see why I love Orwell.
I'm like, that just sounds like you. That sounds like you wrote that.
Thank you. Thank you. And so we skip to point 11, the final point in the essay. Lastly, tea, unless one is drinking it in the Russian style, should be drunk without sugar. I know very well that I am in a minority here, but still, how can you call yourself a true tea lover if you destroy the flavor of your tea by putting sugar in it? I would be equally reasonable to put in pepper or salt.
Crazy man.
Yes, tea is meant to be bitter. Just as beer is meant to be bitter. If you sweeten it, you're no longer tasting the tea, you're merely tasting the sugar. You could make a very similar drink by dissolving sugar in plain hot water. He goes on, he says, I will read this final part. Some people would answer that they don't like tea in itself, that they only drink it in order to be warmed and stimulated, and they need sugar to take the taste away. To those misguided people, I would say, try drinking tea without sugar for, say, a fortnight, and it is very unlikely that you will ever want to ruin your tea by sweetening it again. Whoa. And then he has some concluding paragraphs. Brilliant essay. I love Orwell. I really do.
He's obsessed with tea.
He's obsessed with everything. That's why he's so great. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but one of my favorite qualities of a human is just the ability to lean in. When you host your parties, you and your friends just lean in and you're crazy. We're doing this. We're going to just do it and have fun. And when people ask me what's your favorite province? I'm like, whichever one I'm living in, because I'm leaning in. I'm from Nova Scotia. And before that, when I lived in BC, that was my favorite province. And you got to lean in, right? So he leans into his writing so hard. He's like, I'm going to tell you about how to make tea, and I'm going to lean in. And I'm like, I love that so much. But anyways, I really took this to heart. And at that point, I had been drinking tea with sugar because that's how people had been serving it to me. And that's what I thought was normal. And so then when I took the sugar out of it, it was exactly as he said. I was like, this is a bitter drink now. It's not crazy bitter, not like coffee bitter, but it is it's not sweet anymore. And then a couple weeks later, I tried it with sugar again. It tasted insane. It tasted insane. You're like, wow, you really can't taste the tea as much as you can. It's just so much sweetness. So yes, all of that to say, I drink the biscuit tea with no sugar and with oat milk.
Nice.
Also, Raeleen, I have been misguided for the last little while. I thought for some reason that in his essay he also said not to drink it with milk, to just go black. And he doesn't say that. And I don't. I've always put the milk in because I like it how it tastes with milk. But he does say to put milk in. He's like, you should put milk in, but not sugar.
Very interesting. Well, in case anyone's wondering how I drink my tea.
Yes, please.
If I'm drinking black tea, I usually will do oat milk as well. And just like a tiny dash of agave syrup, because I do like a little bit of sweetness, but I am not like a super sweet person. When I was a kid and would drink tea, God, it would scare you to see how much sugar I used to put in my tea. Like it was an insane amount. It was literally just drinking sugar. But now I like just a little touch of sweetness, just to kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it opens up the flavor in a nice way.
Oh my God.
I know it's controversial, but I do drink my coffee black, so I feel good about that.
I forget where it was. I was recently somewhere and they were saying like, if you don't like black coffee, you can't really call yourself a coffee lover. Like you can enjoy coffee and stuff, but if you don't like black coffee, then you don't actually like coffee. Yeah, you like a sugary
all the other
drink.
Stuff that's in it. Yeah, exactly.
You like the stuff that's it. And I was like, I think that's real actually. Not to gatekeep. We don't need to gatekeep coffee. Everyone go enjoy your coffee. Yeah. But I don't like black coffee. I wonder if I could build my way up to it.
That's what I did. Like I started out as a sweet coffee person, milky, sweet, and I made my way here, and I like it. It's a good life.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's a good life if you don't weaken. That's actually one of my most mashed potato books. It's A Good Life If You Don't Weaken by Seth. I have had it on my bookshelves forever, and so that's it. TBR challenge, CJ, play the music. Whoa. I'm going to read that from Mashed Potato May when I get back home.
Oh my gosh. I forgot at the top of the episode should have talked about TBRs for Mashed Potato May, but here we are anyway.
Oh, true.
I'm not going to make a TBR.
We're just going with the flow this time.
Yeah, go with the flow. I am going to try and tackle some, though. I just don't want to decide now what I'm going to read in 2 weeks. I don't want to do that.
For sure.
I don't want to hurt myself. Be good to me.
All right. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us with this episode. I literally brought my like nice fancy camera, a tripod. I brought everything to make sure these episodes are still good while I'm abroad. So we hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're now going to go record our Patreon mini podcast, Movie Tub, where we talk about movies we've seen recently. I'm going to be talking about 3 movies that I watched on the plane ride over here.
I love when you do this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. I did a film festival, my favorite thing, which I call it a film festival. I'm like, Connor, I'm going to do a film festival. He's like, what's that? I'm like, I watch movies the entire time of the flight. And so I was able to fit in 3 movies.
I love that.
I'm excited to talk about them. So we'll meet you over there if you want to check that out. Our Patreon is always linked in the description, or it's patreon.com/Books Unbound Podcast.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.